So I'm guessing you're probably wondering what's actually happening, judging from the podcast title, The Big T Debate. And, whilst I was at home, before getting to where I needed to be in terms of the venue where we're recording this, I was just thinking to my head, like, I actually do owe people an explanation, one. That's not on my podcast. They give the Big T Debate, mara batho abakono utlwisisa hore bila what's actually going to be happening in this podcast that is surrounded about tea. And I came up with this brilliant idea that, okay, cool, I'm just going to take you through how this came to be. So I have a couple of friends of mine whom we started this organization called the Prat Cartel. And I'm actually laughing inside. I may not be showing this right now, but I'm really holding myself. I'm actually just laughing because it feels really weird having to explain to people that I have an organization where me and a bunch of friends of mine are trying to just change the way in which people see English in itself. Because there's a whole lot of words that we've created in the past. I mean, also like there's the big T debate in itself, but then there's another word like sinks, which is just a short way of saying isink. And then we have another term that we also call bread with called, economic bread. So the list goes on and on. And the weird thing about this moment here that we're having together is the fact that, I was supposed to start a YouTube channel initially with these dudes. And somehow it hasn't taken off, but that's cool. I like the fact that, they gave me this blessing to actually start this show and, do what I need to do in giving you, content related to everything music and pop culture, which is like the main base of this whole show. But pretty much how it started was like, we're going to take pictures of every time we drink tea. And every time we drink tea, we're going to call this whole thing a debate. And that was what it was. But, the problem is like, I'm WhatsApp or post or you're having a debate. And then Watashi Faho would just bila bila debate or Tomaning, when are we going to see the actual debate? And what I liked about that whole moment in itself is just like the momentum and just the engagement that was pretty much just like surrounded around our WhatsApp. And the people on our WhatsApp, the cool thing about the people on our WhatsApp is the fact that, I have friends and then lead brasta me. But it's like we're more or less disconnected in some sense. So it made it really more easier for like the word to just get around. And that's how we got to that point where I was just talking about earlier on with regards to like people just asking questions like, debate there, come on, boy. And another funny thing about this whole moment that we're having also is just the fact that this whole time before me coming here and like, a couple of days before, I was just thinking about this grand idea. Like I'm gonna have a podcast called The Big T Debate, and it's going to wow the world. It's gonna raise a lot of eyebrows. I came to like some moment of realization that me and Jacob Zuma are not really different of people, because like not so long ago this guy was on the news and people were just wondering why he's out here making journalists travel all this way just to see him have tea with people. And I think that's where the whole magic lies in this whole thing that we're doing here, because like that's what it is. It's just tea. Like, I'm spilling tea with regards to everything regarding my passions, which is music and, pop culture and everything related to the culture and music. And that's what I want this whole moment to be in itself. And I guess like seeing that we just got that out the way, I feel like, it's only right for us to start. I'm not so sure even if I gave you my name. I come from a really cultured background. And also introduce myself. So I go by the name of Danny Pacheco, and I'm just going to be taking you through everything related to music and pop culture in SA. And seeing that I just mentioned South Africa, I feel like it's only right for us to just touch on, the weird activities that have been happening in the world of music in SA. Kamo, Rekrabo, Emtee losing his friends. We got AKA also losing his fiance. We got a whole lot of other individuals that we're losing. I mean, we even lost DMX due to substance abuse. And, I find it weird that, okay, cool, weeks before we lose DMX due to substance abuse. And then same thing happens with Emtee's longtime partner and manager, substance abuse. So it's like, there's like a whole revolving theme with regards to like substance abuse. And, it's just something that I'm really not liking. And I've been trying to advocate for it, like, just in the world that I live in, or like in my community, which is Pretoria, judging from the little hints of, the words that I've been using, just mixing it around with English. I'm pretty sure by now you probably just, get an idea of where I'm from. So, I have a whole lot of friends who, just been in and out of drugs, and some are using. And what's crazy about this whole substance abuse thing is like sometimes you can't really tell. You could have a friend and you think that, okay, this dude is fine or this dude doesn't use, but like they actually do. And I think mainly what's been bugging me about this whole situation is the fact that not so long ago we got news that Emtee's been like 2 months sober after having a long run in his career where he's been just using a whole lot of lean, smoking them things like he's been saying. Like I don't know what them things are, but I'm judging from just things. He probably is talking about just the weed and the regular lean that he's been taking. So my whole thing around that idea is just the fact that I was just concerned if that alone in itself wouldn't really mess up the momentum that he's been on, because he gave us an amazing album. He was teasing merchandise not so long ago, and then not so long ago also for me, I was just on his Twitter page, and then I got to see that, okay, cool, it seems like everything's fine. We seeing that this dude is still gigging. He was in Newcastle, and not the Newcastle in the UK, but just Newcastle there in Durban, gigging. And then I forgot what other gig that he had going on. But also one thing that made me really psyched was the fact that I got to see that, okay, cool, this dude was teasing merchandise not so long ago, and then boom, he's got a website up showing his music, latest works, and then people are actually pre-ordering the merchandise that he's dropping. So that's pretty cool to see. And I don't know, like it's even hard for me to just jump from just talking about Emtee and just talk about other things, because I feel like everything that's been happening in the month of May is like just really heavy. I was just having a conversation with my friend before we started shooting this, and I remember just mentioning this whole conversation that we had a while back with regards to just Jazziq and himself as a musician. And it's weird that not so long ago. Okay, I need to find a different word than not so long ago. But just last week, okay, cool. Just last week on Twitter, Ashifa, Bajitawaro Doa Kwashira Dimanor. Eh? Is this dude really like a producer, like he says he is? Because her level track record high, di pinazai le batho. It was, the first project that he dropped just after him and Josiah just decided that, okay, cool, we no longer gonna be pushing this Jazzy Disciples thing. We're gonna go separate paths, and so okay, cool. Tumelo, Mr. Jazziq was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna do a project. And then he did a project, he released it under Platoon, and it was dope because the fact that he had like the idea in himself, like, okay, I'm gonna push a solo project, but I'm not only gonna push a solo project alone, I'm gonna put other people on. So it was more so like a collaborative project. I mean, that's how I got to first know about Buster 929, through that project that he dropped, right? And then after that he went on a run, just pretty much just dropping projects and projects and more projects, right? And then through that we got to know Boris Matlisa, we got to know Bozuma, we got to know Buster 929, like I did mention. But now, here's where the controversy comes, is where like people, besides just me raising eyebrows in relation to questions about him being a real musician and a producer. But I think there's a difference between a producer and a composer these days. But I'm gonna get into that in a bit. But now, what I wanted to highlight is just what the Twitter world was saying. People were talking about how, yo, this man Bila, he's nothing without his freaking collaborators of, the people that I actually mentioned. Your Bust 929 and your Reese Malisa and Zumas. But like these dudes actually did feature in that new album of his. Even though like people met this album with like a whole lot of mixed reviews, but there were a couple of singles also on the project, I'm not gonna lie, that actually sounded really solid. It's just that the whole energy around that album seems like I had these songs, Negri Trepile, Samuels Kaftini, and they've been weighing really heavy on me. Because like, I feel the same way with regards to like the whole creative process of like whatever it is I might be working on or creating. You do get to a point where like create something and it's just been lying there. And I feel like it's wasted energy if you were gonna create something and not release it, right? But now I think that's the same thing that I was feeling with Jazziq with regards to like how he dropped the album. Like I did mention, there was like pieces that sounded dope, but there were other pieces like que no dropa and que no dropa. And I think that people in themselves actually do burn out, because like this dude's been releasing ever since lockdown started. That's pretty much why, till this day or today, we feeling like, okay, this dude is like our country's treasure. And I saw even other people talking about how he's the closest thing to Maporisa or even better than Maporisa, which I feel like it's a bit questionable because like you might need some years to actually get to the point where Maporisa's at also, right? But I guess with regards to this whole thing, if I'm trying to, not even if I'm trying to getting lost in my tongue. Lost my tongue. So yeah, if I were to wrap this whole thing up, I would say that it's really hard to just point fingers at this dude and say he's not a real producer, whereas he gave us all these household names that we see on these lineups today. There wouldn't be any Mpura. Okay, I guess I don't know how to pronounce this dude's name. Mpura. If it wasn't for this dude. There wouldn't be no Lady Do if it wasn't for this dude. There wouldn't be no Reese Madlisa and Zoom if it wasn't for this dude. There also wouldn't be, I think I'm forgetting somebody else, but like, I think also Josiah, even though like Josiah had a name for himself too, there wouldn't really be. And we wouldn't even be seeing all these other kids like Vini dancing, doing what they're doing if it wasn't for, the influence that he's had in terms of dance moves and stuff, because like besides him being a producer and a great, okay, I can't say composer because that is still questionable to this day, but besides him being a great producer and DJ, that dude's like a trendsetter when it comes to this dancing thing. All these movements, all these moves that we're seeing. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like to some degree, and I know a lot of people are gonna attack me for this, but I feel like yeah, parts of like what Vinny's doing right now, that wouldn't be if it wasn't for him, because he brought this whole new element of like dance moves and all these things to the game. But yeah, I think that's what I have to say with regards to him. I wanted to give a brief shout out to Elaine. I'm really liking what she's doing right now. And I was just thinking to myself just last week, just sitting down and watching this video that she dropped on YouTube. I think she's calling it the Shining Star intro. I was like, yo, this baby's really the coldest. And I say coldest because like she really ignited this flame in me that made me once fall in love with like everything that Casper's been doing and everything that any individual that's been rocking independent has been pushing in the game, in the sense of like you don't really always have to just latch on to just working with these majors. You still have an opportunity to push things on your own and still take it to greater heights. So just watching that made me like a bit teary, and the fact that just seeing where she comes from, and to the point where she is right now, it's really cool to see. And another dope thing is like she finally dropped a pre-save link to the song that she's been teasing on Instagram called "The Right Now." So I think that's gonna be interesting. But I do hope that Drake and Sampha don't feature on that song because like I don't know, I just have this thing where I'm pro collaboration, but I'm not pro collaboration when it comes to certain people featuring on songs. And it's weird because I talk about this as if like I was in the studio or I control like the music that she makes, but like I feel like the song in itself sounds really dope. And if you were to add Drake and Sampha, it's like, I don't think they can do anything more to the song. It's like it already sounds complete to me, and I've only heard like a minute and a couple of seconds of that song. So I'm wondering like when Sampha and Drake features on this song, how's it gonna sound? But hopefully it doesn't ruin the whole idea around the song. It makes me think about this idea of collaboration, that I've been thinking about for a while. Ever since seeing Focalistic, what he's been doing, his work just outside of the country, touring, and then obviously us getting the Kista remix, and now all of a sudden we're gonna get a collaborative EP with him and Davido. I think that's really gonna be another power move. And I was watching this Kaya FM interview that Foka did, and he was talking about how he's working on this big deal where he's gonna be licensing his music to a big corporation. I don't know, probably somewhere in the States or something. And I think that's really a big step when we're talking about Amapiano as a genre in itself. So you see, like, there's certain collaborations that actually do work. Him working with Davido on the remix, I'm pretty sure that might have sparked the whole idea of like these corporations also just been interested. But I'm not gonna not also celebrate what the actual original song has done too, because like for him to get the gigs that he got with Kista is because the whole of the world and also Africa in itself was listening. So I guess like he also did it on himself, did it by himself also. But I'm thinking also just like the influence that the video has within the game might have like also sparked up those conversations. So that's gonna be something that's really dope to see. I thought I was dreaming just the other week ago when I woke up like around midnight and I was going through Focus Instagram, and then I saw that he's also in the studio working with Diamond Platinum. So that's also something that's gonna be dope, right? But yeah, I don't know. I'm shaky when it comes to like these collaborations, but obviously there's positives that come with it, and the fact that it puts you in different spaces that you wouldn't have thought that you're gonna get yourself into. So I guess like that's why maybe Elaine might collaborate with Sanford and Drake, and that's why we're seeing Folk collaborate with Diamond Platinums and Davido, because like he's trying to extend his reach, even though he's been touring heavily in Africa. I'm talking about Foka. The more he collaborates with these guys, the more he gets more gigs outside of SA, and that's pretty good for him because like he's been banking a lot. Whereas there was a point in time where we couldn't even move in SA, we couldn't even go to any gig. Like these artists were just chilling, and we're just all just throwing jabs to Natim Teto because like it doesn't seem like he's doing much for the art world. So it's great to see that the boy folk has been pocketing. Um, and I guess like we can close this off by me just shedding light on the Pretoria scene. There's something really interesting that I saw by this dude called Tyson ST, and I've been following him for a while. And yeah, nah, he just makes me feel proud. Like when you're having those moments, you're just chilling on your own, or maybe like when you wake up. I don't know if I'm the only one that has one of those moments, but like I tend to have one of these moments where I just look in the mirror and I'm like, yo, que proud is you, que proud what's up, because like there's a lot of greatness that actually exists within our city. And one of the dope moments with Tyson ST was the fact that I've been following this dude for a while, like I did mention, and he got playlisted over like 4 major playlists on Apple Music. And I think that was really a dope moment to see because like it's not only him, but it's like a dope ass moment to celebrate because like when I think about him, I think about all the other people that he's been pushing and just taking them with along his journey. Like the people that he's been collaborating with. This Tato Soul also has been doing really dope in terms of the numbers. I mean, through Tyson ST, I got to know a whole lot of people. So him getting playlisted also just means like we get into a world where we may not be needing radio in our content plans or promotional plans because you have artists already now pushing their music and it's now traveling to points where they wouldn't even have imagined. Like I mentioned earlier on, Tyson ST getting his music playlisted on Apple Music, and it was like a good 4 playlists that he got his music playlisted into. And it just goes to show that if you try build on that social media presence and that online presence, eventually your music is going to land on the right ears. And I just wanted to just give a shout out to whoever is in charge of these playlists on Apple Music, because clearly they are doing the right job because they have their ears to the ground. Unlike these music compilers at radio stations these days, it seems like they're so disconnected with what's actually happening online, and it's kind of affecting the game in terms of like the playing field. I don't feel like it's actually leveled because like if we think about artists also that are maybe not on the same level with regards to like Tyson ST in terms of like not having the same following online, it's harder for them to actually get their music to places that they wanted to get to, which is why people end up now resorting to just unethical ways, which is like your payolas, or even stretching to a point where if you're an artist who grew up knowing that all they wanted to do was keep full ownership of their music, and then getting to a point where a lot of people in the game regard you signing with a major as selling your soul. That's where it gets to. It gets to that point where you're signing with a major mainly just to get your music on the radio. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the fact that the motive behind that whole thing alone. I know for sure I'm one person who's really big on people really just pushing things organically. If it happens to be, it does happen to be. And I feel like that's where we can close off today. A big shout out to you for tuning in. I go by the name of Danny Pacheco, and this has been the Big T Debate. Brah. Peace.